And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Simon.
Here.
Here.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
We have minutes from November 5th. Can I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. One item, refer to committee. Can you read that, please, for the record?
Resolution number 2025-0326, authorizing a contract with CEP Renewables in the amount not to exceed $18,900,000 for financing and construction of a 6.5 megawatt solar farm in Brooklyn, Ohio.
Hi, good afternoon. Valerie Katz, Deputy Administrator for Cuyahoga Green Energy. And I have with me today Libby Lehman, who is the project manager for our Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. Also some other members of our team, Shelby Seberg, who is our program officer for Public Works, Jay Canetti, who's our Department of Energy Fellow, Matt Ruby, who is our Business Services Manager, and he's done a lot of legwork on this contract. And we have Jared here from Law, who's sitting in for Jim DeFeo, who's done the legal legwork on this project. Also here today are Mike Wise and Kurt Princeps from CEP Renewables, which is the developer for the projects that are before you today. We do have a PowerPoint presentation.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, just to also let the committee know there's a proposed substitute.
Well, we can hear the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So this contract is being funded largely through climate pollution reduction grant dollars. As you know, this was the $129 million grant that the county was awarded in 2024, largely to do utility scale and commercial scale solar projects on landfills and brownfields in Cuyahoga County, as well as the city of Paynesville. The contract before you today is for two of these projects, our Brooklyn landfill solar project and our Harvard Road landfill project. Funding for the Brooklyn project is being used to build out our existing Brooklyn landfill project. And just to give you a little history, this is the county's 4 megawatt landfill project located behind the service garage in the city of Brooklyn. This project went online in 2018 under the guidance of then director Mike Foley. At the time, this was the first landfill solar project in the entire state of Ohio. Since then, we've seen other landfill projects, solar projects come online in Ohio, but at the time, this was really unprecedented under Ohio law and Ohio regulation. This was also a very local project. It was developed by a local developer. It used Ohio-produced solar panels. The racking system was sourced from Ohio, and most of the labor was sourced from Ohio as well. This also has a very interesting interconnection model in that the electricity that's generated from these panels is sent out onto the Cleveland Public Power Distribution Network, and through an arrangement with Cleveland Public Power is being virtually net metered back into some of our county buildings. So we are virtually offsetting some of the power that we use or that we take from the grid in our county buildings through this landfill project. As you can see, if you look at this picture, only part of the landfill is built out. These panels from Brooklyn Phase 1 cover about half of the landfill. So Brooklyn Phase 2 is being developed to cover the remaining portion of the landfill. And so Brooklyn Phase 2 will add an additional 6.5 megawatts of solar to the landfill. This will consist of over 12,000 domestically produced First Solar panels. So the company that provided the panels for Phase 1 is also providing the panels for Phase 2. This will have significant greenhouse gas reduction capabilities, reducing CO2 emissions by an estimated 96,000 tons. CEP, as I mentioned, CEP Renewables is the developer for this project, and through a competitive procurement process, they have sourced local installer Yellow Light as the installer for this project. And the county actually has experience working with Yellow Light because Yellow Light has been competitively procured a number of times to do work on our residential solar program. The structure of Brooklyn Phase 2 is going to be different than the structure of Phase 1 in that as the grant recipient, Cuyahoga County will own the project as soon as it is developed, and we will own the panels for the life of the project. Through a federal law called PURPA, or the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act, we will send that power the power again will go into the Cleveland Public Power grid, and we will sell the power to CPP at a very reduced rate. So we will be selling the power to CPP at a below market rate price. So this will provide low cost power for City of Cleveland residents, but it will also bring in revenue for CGE. And our estimated 20-year net revenue is predicted to be about $4 million. The total project cost is $14.5 million, and 60% of that will be coming from the EPA grant in an amount of $8.7 million, and 40% will be funded through direct pay tax credits in an amount of $5.8 million. So we, of course, need to meet EPA deadlines and grant deadlines and milestones, but the timeline for a number of our projects has been sped up because of changes to federal renewable energy policy. So we do have a rather tight deadline for this project. CEP has already procured the panels for this project in order to safe harbor the project and enable us to take advantage of federal tax credits. But they are also looking to take advantage of an existing federal Buy America, Build America waiver. So as I mentioned, these are domestic panels, but there are some components that are hard to procure domestically. So there is a BABA waiver, and in order to take advantage of that waiver, these panels need to be installed before the end of June of 2026. So CEP is planning to hit the ground running on this project as soon as they can. So in addition to the Brooklyn project, this contract also anticipates our Harvard Road landfill project. This is also CPRG funded, and this is a 2-megawatt project that's going to go on the southern portion of the Harvard landfill. So if you look at this picture, you can see that the northern portion of this landfill is located in the city of Cleveland, and that's right above those railroad tracks. And the southern portion is located at the confluence of the city of Garfield Heights and the city of Cuyahoga Heights. So the boundary of those two cities kind of bifurcates the southern portion of the landfill. The cost of this project is anticipated to be $4.4 million, again with 60% coming from CPRG funds and 40% coming from tax credit dollars. CEP has the land rights to develop this landfill as well. So CEP was written into the grant as a sole source developer for this project and has been approved by the EPA as a sole source developer for this project. This project also has significant greenhouse gas reduction potential as well. In addition to the greenhouse gas reduction potential, however, this project also has significant local environmental and local community benefits, and that is because this project is considered to be an this landfill is considered to be an orphan landfill. It's been in receivership since 2009, and even before that had significant maintenance needs and significant stewardship issues. Currently, there is a methane collection system on this that's part of this landfill that is being maintained by the OEPA, but that methane collection system needs a long-term plan. There is currently a concrete crushing business that is operating through a business arrangement with the receiver on the landfill. This concrete crushing operation is generating, or over time has generated, these giant piles of crushed rock. And if you look at this picture, you can see that some of these piles are literally in residents' backyards. And these are causing significant air pollution issues for Slavic Village residents and have been a problem, or a long-time problem, for the local community. The people of Slavic Village talk about how during the summer months, they don't even want to go outside because the air quality is sometimes so bad. So there are a number of stakeholders that have been involved and have a real interest in seeing this landfill better maintained. And the OEPA is one of those stakeholders. They have a real interest in seeing this project happen. The Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District has done some environmental studies for this landfill. They have a real interest in seeing this project developed. Slavic Village Community Development Corporation has been advocating on behalf of the Slavic Village residents, and Case Environmental Law Clinic has been providing pro bono legal work to Slavic Village and to the CDC. The original grant anticipated developing the northern portion of the landfill and interconnecting it to Cleveland Public Power. For reasons that we are not entirely aware, the city of Cleveland is no longer interested in interconnecting this project. So for the past several weeks, we've been looking for a plan B, because we feel that this project is particularly important, not only for the greenhouse gas reduction benefits, but also because this has very significant community impacts. So we are scrambling to develop a plan B. And we are still exploring the feasibility of this plan. But what we think we can do is develop the southern portion, put 2 megawatts of solar on the southern portion of the landfill, and interconnect it to the county's new central services campus, which is located about 1.5 miles south of the landfill. That 2 megawatts of solar would offset approximately 20 to 25% of the facility's energy usage. The things that we need to figure out are how we run that distribution line. Interestingly, if you look at this picture, that green line is actually a CEI, or a Cleveland Electric Illuminating right-of-way. There's a First Energy transmission line that runs almost directly from the landfill to the new Central Services Campus location. And we have opened up conversation with First Energy to explore the feasibility of using their right-of-way to develop a distribution line through that right-of-way, because that would be a very direct connection. So we're exploring the feasibility of that. Absent that possibility, there are other possibilities. That red line shows another possible pathway for that distribution line, but as you can see, that's not nearly as straightforward. And then the other thing we're trying to figure out in short order is, if we were to develop this project, who would take long-term ownership and responsibility for the land. So we're in conversations with the stakeholders mentioned previously, in particular the OEPA and the Solid Waste District, as well as some other stakeholders, to try to figure out who will take ownership of the land, and with the support of other stakeholders, including the OEPA, maintain the landfill in perpetuity. This project also is on a tight timeline in order to kind of what we call safe harbor the project and enable us to take advantage of federal tax credits. We do need to begin construction by the end of June of 2026. And when we say begin construction, there are specific IRS definitions around what they consider to be beginning construction. This doesn't mean that all the racking has to be installed. It doesn't mean that all the panels have to be installed. But we do have to do some kind of quote-unquote significant work in order to safe harbor the projects. So we really need to figure out the feasibility of this project within the next several weeks to determine if we can meet that deadline. So in the contract before you today, we do also include the Harvard Road project. This has not been fleshed out and does not include the detail that the Brooklyn project does. If we determine that this project is feasible, we would have to come back with an amendment to the contract. But by incorporating this project into the existing contract, we feel that we can expedite the process if we determine that the project is feasible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the substitute from legal. I'm looking at the substitute resolution and its proposed substitution. I don't see where it talks about Harvard. Should it talk about Harvard? I know it changes a contract to contracts plural with CEP. Are we anticipating that's going to incorporate the Harvard project, or do we need to talk about Harvard?
This is Jared Zabertoski from the Law Department. That's a great question. The way that I view the proposed amendment is actually to incorporate our ability to pay a third party in lieu of a payment bond, so that we can ensure that the money that we are paying on the original contract is going to the subcontractors as required. So I will go back and check if that changes that they are making in the proposed is to address Harvard. I'll happily go find that out for you. I don't know as I stand here today, but I believe it's to allow us to direct those payments, not just to CEP with the folks that we're signing the contract with, but to a third party, so that we can pay the folks, the subcontractors are actually working on it. That's what it looks like to me, but I'll go confirm.
You think we should double check that?
I'm
just
happy
make-
to. I'm happy to run up there. It would be just a
Yeah,
minute, but I don't want to.
mean, if you think this is enough, then I'll go with the substitute.
I do know, and I will say, to maybe alleviate the concern, is if we are going to go forward with the Harvard project, there is going to be another amendment that's required that should be back in front of
Okay,
here.
so we'll come back with
I
that.
believe so, yes.
Okay, so, but this is okay for now.
I think that this is okay for now, and I think the purpose of this proposed substitute is to allow us to direct and the third party. Essentially, they're acting as an escrow agent, a title agent in this case.
Okay, to the subs or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right, then I'm comfortable with that. If the committee's comfortable, I'd like to move for a motion to adopt the proposed substitute that we just discussed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so before us now is a substitute for Resolution 2025-0326. We heard a presentation from Deputy Director Katz. Do we have questions?
I have a couple.
Okay, President Miller.
My first question through the chair to Director Katz is what is a direct pay tax credit? I never heard of that before.
Yeah, so under the Inflation Reduction Act, so tax credits have been around for renewable energy projects for decades, for a long time. They've kind of ebbed and they flowed. They've been increased, they've decreased, they've increased. Prior to the Inflation Reduction Act, solar projects had 30% federal tax credits available to for-profit entities as well as for residents, for residential solar. The Inflation Reduction Act enabled for the first time nonprofit organizations, governmental entities, school systems to also utilize or take advantage of that 30% tax credit, and under the Inflation Reduction Act, some additional credits that could be stacked on top of that 30% tax credit. But to take advantage of that tax credit through what they call a direct pay method. So even entities that don't have tax liability could go ahead and file paperwork as if they file, claim taxes, they file tax paperwork, and then get a refund in the amount of that 30%, or if you are eligible for some of those adders for 40% or even 50% from the federal government.
Okay. And where you list the CO2 reductions that are estimated to be obtained, why does it say 2050 CO2 reduction? Certainly, we're going to get reductions well before 2050. Why does it say 2050?
Yeah, I probably should have said cumulative reductions. So when we submitted the grant wanted us to estimate what we would reduce in terms of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas reductions between when the projects went online in 2030 and then between when the projects went online in 2050, because they're looking at what are the long-term implications of the projects.
So these numbers represent the estimated cumulative reduction between the time that it goes online and 2050?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Questions? Okay, Councilman Schlepper.
Hi there, thank you for being here. Appreciate this and obviously appreciate this project. I just had a couple questions about the methane collection system. I know when I lived in Denver, Colorado, they had done a lot of work surrounding how to collect methane and then reutilize it in other capacities, so to power homes or power businesses. Is there an opportunity here to kind of do a dual collaboration and potentially, as we mitigate that, it seems like it's an aging, or there's aging infrastructure surrounding the methane collection, in collaboration with this solar field?
From my understanding, the landfill is old enough that it is not producing enough methane to make collecting it economically viable. Methane collection is a great option in terms of renewable natural gas, but typically you want to start collecting that methane early on in the life of the landfill. And to my understanding, most of our landfills in Cuyahoga County have been closed for long enough that most of them, if any, yield enough methane to make collecting it and using it as renewable natural gas economically viable.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then the other question I had was just, I was kind of glancing, I tend to do this in committee, I'm looking at maps, and I noticed that there's another probably 4 times the size parcel immediately to the south of this location. Is that also a landfill? And I guess the broader question is there potential to expand this down the road should we want to do that in coming years?
To my understanding, that is a landfill, and I'm going to ask Kurt Princip to come up. Kurt is the former regional director of the OEPA, and he is also, I believe, had some interaction around that property as well.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I'm Kurt Princip with CEP Renewables, and the site that you're referring to that is directly south of Harvard is the Republic Wastes Warner Road landfill. And it is definitely a candidate for solar in the future. It's not going to be a part of the climate pollution reduction grant, but the state of Ohio has 2 different legislation that are pending that would allow developers, allow us to develop that site. So if the opportunity, if those come through, we would very much like to develop that landfill for solar.
And then in line with that, and again through the chair, so this expansion that we're seeing now, the current site, is that whole site 17 acres, or is just this additional half that we're moving, is that 17 acres?
So for the Brooklyn project, the existing Brooklyn project sits on 17 acres of landfill. The 6.5 megawatts that is anticipated through this contract will build out the rest of the landfill, which is roughly an additional 17 acres of landfill.
Gotcha. So together, this Brooklyn site would be about 34 acres. Okay. And looking then at was that about 650 homes was the projected impact where they could, power that many homes? So then both of them, we could conceivably believe 1,300 homes could be powered when this site is fully built out?
Yeah, and just roughly doing the math, because the phase 2 is actually 6.5 megawatts as opposed to 4 megawatts, whatever the proportional, more like 1,500 homes or ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then with that additional site, down the road, the Republic site, I mean, you could be servicing a combined 6,000 homes potentially.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible, and what an opportunity for us to be a national leader here and a model. So anyway, I just wanted to get my head around those numbers, thinking ahead.
Yeah, and the whole CPRG grant was for roughly 63 megawatts of solar. So these two projects are a fraction of that 63 megawatts. Some of that is in Cuyahoga County. We did this grant in partnership with the city of Paynesville. So Paynesville will be deploying between 25 and 35 megawatts as well. And they're not involved with these two projects, but we did bring our contract with Paynesville before the committee earlier this year, and they've been a great partner on this project as well.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for answering those questions.
Okay, Councilman Hauser.
Through the chair to the director, first off, thank you for all the great work you guys do. I'm going to be honest with you, Director. I always get weary when I see these very tight timelines, and this might be more related to the Harvard Road project, that it needs to be constructed before July of 2026 to safe harbor the project. And then on top of that, we don't know, even if we decide to support this project, we wouldn't know who would actually be over it long term.
So, so yes, this is a tight timeline. Yes, we are considering that as well, the short timeline. We don't need to have it fully developed by the middle of '26. We just need to begin construction, and in order to safe harbor it, and there are kind of IRS Treasury definitions around what they consider to be beginning construction or beginning quote-unquote meaningful work. So it doesn't have to be really far along in the construction, but we do have to kind of begin construction in order to safe harbor the project. We would be the owner of this project as well. So because it's a CPRG-funded project, as the grant recipient, we would take ownership of the project as soon as it's developed. CEP has already been identified as the developer of that project. And the way the contract is written, it's written that the project would move forward pending feasibility or pending the determination that the project is feasible. So, so there are some uncertainties around the Harvard Road project just in terms of the timeline.
As far as the contract, is there any like performance guarantees in the projects?
Yes.
So can you speak to them if let's say, as we use the Brooklyn project, for example, if it underperforms or it doesn't produce the energy, we, as a county, we have recourse and.
Absolutely. And there are some industry standard guidelines around performance guarantees, production guarantees, and all of that. We have had a lot of back and forth with the developer and talking to our consultants and making sure that the appropriate performance and production guarantees are built into the contract.
For the record, I am leery of the Harvard Road project, but please keep us updated on you guys' work.
Understood.
Just as a follow-up to the Councilman, this is all federal grant money. It's not county money. And we were given a project specified out, including City of Cleveland. And the City of Cleveland has, as the director stated, has decided for whatever reason not to cooperate or participate in this. And at this point, we want to make sure we can use the infrastructure dollars, this money, and to come up with a project that will accommodate what the intention was. And I want to give this 100% a shot, because we're put in a bind because of that issue with Cleveland. We're put in a big bind, a time bind, opportunity bind. So that's why we're in the situation we are. And if for some reason they can't break ground or do what they need to do to guarantee the project, then we won't use the federal dollars, right? That's the
Yeah.
consequence?
Yeah, and at that point, we would go back to our EPA grant support person. They have been wonderful throughout this project, highly supportive. The EPA team has been incredibly collaborative. And, they understand the situation with the tax credits. They know that we, as well as a number of other grant recipients, have been put in a position of having to scramble to do what we said we were going to do based on previous federal policy around energy. And, what we might negotiate with them is we still use EPA dollars, but we do a smaller project. We have safe harbored a number of our projects, so we feel very good about that. We've safe harbored a project with the sewer district. We've safe harbored a project with Metro Health. We've safe harbored on-site solar for the Central Services campus. The Brooklyn project obviously has been safe harbored. So this 2 megawatts was kind of a remnant of what the city of Cleveland said that they would develop when we originally applied for the grant. So, if we're put in that position, we would go back to the EPA and say, we can't do the full 2 megawatts because we don't have the tax credits. Can we do 1 point whatever, whether it's at the Harvard site or not, and can we reconfigure? And I think they would work with us on that.
Yeah, so there's no risk to the county.
Sounds
If-
good. Thank you for the clarity,
Yeah,
Chair.
I think it's
Appreciate
just,
it.
we just can't use the money from the
Sounds good.
feds, unfortunately. And this is the same money that's been in and out of our bank account after the administration, federal President Trump came in and started messing with these environmental grants. So I'm glad we're able to at least move forward with the project. Any questions from anybody else? Because I have a couple. So this land, the one you spoke to with regard to the expanding Brooklyn, there was litigation around our original solar array. Is that resolved?
I think that litigation is dormant, from my understanding. I don't think it's been fully resolved, but I don't think it's active. And that litigation was related to the landfill, but it had to do with the city of Cleveland selling power outside of the city to the city of Brooklyn. So the actual solar project was kind of tangential to that
Right.
litigation. We don't anticipate that litigation interfering with the Brooklyn Phase 2.
Okay. Yeah, it was just connected. We couldn't perform what we wanted to do if that litigation impaired that. So, but I know, okay, good. So that's not going to impact this. The PURPA regulation, does that control the rate that we have to give to
To some
CPP?
To some degree, it says that you have to, the utility has to buy the power at their avoided cost. How you define avoided cost is subject to some interpretation, but all along, our goal was to sell the power, to provide that power to CPP at a very reduced rate. So PURPA does provide some guidelines around that rate. We feel that the PURPA rate is fair, that 3.5 cents, it's much cheaper than what CPP currently pays for power on average, but it also does provide us with revenue as well. So it was partly PURPA determined, but also partly negotiated.
So the project now is able to go forward because of PURPA, despite Cleveland's non-participation?
Cleveland was the one, Cleveland could do this project without PURPA. They are the ones that required us to utilize and invoke PURPA in order to interconnect the project.
Understood. Okay, and just one last question. When we hopefully will be revisiting the Harvard landfill, that's a project that, we really wanted to see happen, both north and south. And it's a shame that the residents have to be subjected to that environmental toxin and that can't be redeveloped in an environmentally friendly way, all of it. I'm very disappointed with that. Not your fault. The Slavic Village part, that's Cleveland though, isn't it?
Correct.
So how would we move forward on the southern end with that? Is that for the CDC we would be dealing with?
We're hoping to enter to connect with an entity that's willing to, even though the solar would only be developed on the southern portion, enter into a land steward that would take responsibility for both north and south.
Oh.
So that's what we are working out now, because you're absolutely right. If all we do is take possession of the southern portion and develop solar on the southern portion, it doesn't help Slavic Village. So we want to look at the whole landfill holistically.
Okay, well, really good work, very good work from the team, from Director Foley, and this is very involved and complex chess game,
Yes.
and we appreciate your effort, and I faith that this is going to come through in some form or fashion. So, any other questions or concerns? I will, we have a substitute resolution. Can I have a motion? And does this need three readings? I'm sorry, suspension?
Yes, can we
It
do it?
does,
Thank
right?
you.
It's
Yes,
time
if we can.
sensitive. All of this is time sensitive. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that this be passed out of committee with a recommendation for second reading. Passage. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so this will be on the next council agenda with suspension, Tuesday. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, that's it for